What a year it was. Join us after the break. Welcome back. It's now time for our panel discussion. Joining us from Melbourne again is Isaac Harrison. He's an old face on this show, so he's the co-founder of Bunjil Energy, and from Perth, of course, for first time, is Liza Maguire, director at Red Spear Safety. Thanks for joining us. Let's start with Liza. What diverse skills diverse skills you have? You were the co-founder of Janali Productions and produced the first Aboriginal women's calendar, which I find that fascinating. And now as operations manager at Red Spear Safety, you work at improving safety across many sectors. And Isaac, sorry.
Oh no! Well, let's before you get to Isaac, I want to
push you off the show.
Yeah, no. He's trying to fit you all in. Before you get to Isaac, I want to ask Liza about the women's calendar. I didn't understand. Please tell me about this women's calendar.
Janine, we started the 2003, we launched Australia's first Aboriginal women's calendar in 2001. So it was an opportunity for us to promote the beauty of Aboriginal women and to get us out there in the Australian fashion industry. At that time when we did the calendar, there was no presence of Aboriginal women, and that's what we wanted to do. We wanted to launch into the Australian fashion industry and show who we are as Aboriginal women, and we're Australians' hidden treasure. So that was the main goal of what we did.
Well, I love that, but it's a far cry a different area now, working on safety.
Oh, well, definitely, from fashion into mining and oil and gas and the marine industry, and, you know, looking at cranes and slings and chain blocks. It's definitely no Gucci or Parada with these brands. But, yeah, so working with global lifting and rigging brands in what we do is a change, and how we supply change into the industry.
Yeah. And Isaac, well, maybe they should work on a calendar with me and you, and so
they want to sell some.
Safeway.
So what have you been up to?
I just got back. We did went out to Mildura to see a old cattle station there by Uncle Barry, who runs it out there with his family, and talked about some of the challenges they were having employing local Indigenous people. They've got work on and opportunities, but it's trying to get the blackfellas to come in on station and to work for Legacy. He's been finding that's difficult. Also went up to Albury-Wodonga and spent some time there with a young man who just took over the Land Council. Land Council just went into admission, I think, last year, and he's taken over. And he's only young. I think he's about 28 and comes from a council background, but he saw an opportunity where he wanted to step in and help. And yeah, so I'll just go out there and lend my expertise in business and in leadership and see where I can help out. So.
Now, the Indigenous procurement policy and Aboriginal procurement policy in each of the states, are they working, and how are they making an economic difference? Should they be continued? I'll ask you, Isaac, first, and then we'll go to Liza.
Yeah, sure. So our Victorian state ones just launched this year. Most departments at 1%. I was just at DELP's launch last week, and it's very serious momentum happening here in Victoria for Indigenous businesses and any social business that's wired that way. For instance, Level Crossing Upgrades just won a lot of awards for their social returns. And it's really happening, it's funneling down until there's a lot of opportunities for anyone who's got a socially conscious business. And so, yeah, the momentum's there. Is it, you know, something you can just walk in and win work on, being Indigenous? No, that's probably a good thing because it encourages capability and professionalism and, you know, track record. So, yeah, it's definitely happening here, and looking forward to next year, I think, where they're going to increase it year by year.
And Liza?
You know, it's a great initiative that the federal government has put in place. Western Australia, we've just launched our WA Indigenous procurement policy here as well. So it's only just been launched. We've not yet seen the fruits of what's, you know, Ben White and his team have put in place for us. But there's a lot of excitement, especially within the WA businesses here. But and you can see from the federal procurement policy, the changes and the impact that has increased on us as Aboriginal businesses. It gives us an opportunity to be a part of the Australian economy and get a slice of the apple pie. And that's what we want as Aboriginal businesses, is an opportunity to grow within our businesses, to create employment and to make a change and go forward within the Australian economy.
Well, we've seen, even today, but across this show over the year, a number of the big corporations making a difference and doing initiatives. But I want to ask both of you, what else do you think needs to be done to grow Indigenous business and economic growth? Is there a couple of big ideas or little things that could make a difference, Liza?
I think, you know, it's a new space for us being in this industry with Aboriginal businesses. I think that, you know, more programs, you know, more shows like what you do, Warren, out there promoting in the industry, and also, you know, maybe monitoring of all these Indigenous procurement policies to make sure that accountability within these different departments, that they are meeting their targets and creating the opportunities and getting the right spend for us as Aboriginal businesses. And
Isaac, what do you think? Have you got any recommendations?
Yeah, I think it's just education. A lot of people don't understand, well, what's an Indigenous business and what does it mean? And I like to say, you know, my grandfather was a Kanaka, so he worked on railroads and cane cutted for rations at times and sometimes no money. And so I haven't got equity in my family. I can't go get a loan to start a business. So the IPP really helps supplement some of that lost equity and opportunity that Indigenous people have been sort of taken away from. And so for me, I think more education to the procurement officers and government procurement, and more education for us Indigenous businesses as well in a real practical sense.
Yeah. Now, the mining industry has been awarding contracts with billions of dollars to Aboriginal business people. Does the environmental impact outweigh the economic advantages?
That's a tough one. Yeah, look, I'm not completely against, you know, mining. Neither am I for. Depends who's doing it. And it is tough because the land's sacred to a lot of Indigenous people, and some land corps or tribes, it's really important more than the economic benefits. But I think there's a way to do it sustainably and do it the right way, so that we have land thereafter that can be used. So, yeah, it depends who's doing it, you know.
Yeah. How do you feel about that, Liza? Yeah.
Totally agree with what Isaac's saying, and it's just like like businesses getting, like IBN services, getting back to the land and rehabilitating and rejuvenating in the land and working with the traditional owners to take it back to the same, I mean, what we are, caring for country. But then there's also the economic development, you know, the impact of that. So creating, you know, employment and creating opportunities for us to go back and work on the land.
Well, given this is the last show for the year, I'll give you, get your crystal ball out. What do you think are the big issues for next year? What are the things you want to see in your own business or in the broader community? Give us some forecasts. Start with you, Isaac.
Yeah, I think something I foresee in the next year, we're going to see a lot more competition and new players come into the Indigenous business place, which goes back to our black cladding conversation, which I was on here last time. I think that's going to be a massive uptake, and I've already seen sort of bits of it as we are now. But I also see a lot of Indigenous businesses really tightening relationships with each other, because we found this last year, a lot of our revenue or projects that we have won have come from referrals from other Indigenous businesses. So I think that's what's going to happen the next year.
And Liza, what are you seeing in the year ahead for you and others?
I think it's a great time to be an Aboriginal business. There's so many opportunities. It's, you know, the corporate space and the Indigenous procurement policy are bringing more opportunities for us to be participating in the economic development. So, yeah, a tsunami of more Aboriginal businesses, a lot of start-up people coming into space and taking most of the opportunities.
And of course, the $64 question here is, you know, coming out of that is, what is self-determination to an Indigenous business leader? Yeah, Liza.
I think I mean, it's about just being proud and doing what you're going to say and building a pathway for others to follow in your footstep and to influence and go out and be a role model for your community and help make a change for our people to follow suit and to think that they can be out of the box and to create and follow their dreams as well.
Yeah. Isaac.
Yeah, I think it's summed as the power to say no. I think Indigenous businesses are starting to mature, as long as we've got a lot of startups as well, but Indigenous business is starting to mature, and I think the ability to say no to certain things is what's really going to be what self-determination is for Indigenous people, because we say yes to a lot of things without really knowing what's going on or what's entailed. That comes out of a place of desperation or of need. But I think Indigenous people are starting to get more empowered, and technology's closed the gap. There's information there now. And so Indigenous people are going to say no to what they want to and yes to what they want to do.
Yeah. Sadly, as it happens every week in this show, we've got so much to talk about and so much to do, and some exciting things, and we get exciting guests on that. But thanks for that's our show for this week and for the year. Once again, I'd like to thank my co-host Janine Perrott for joining me, but also I wish Isaac and Liza, thank you for coming on the show as well, and Merry Christmas and have a safe Christmas, and also. To everyone out there, thanks for your support, and to all our 8 million viewers out there, thank you for watching this show, and it's goodbye from me, and to send a Merry Christmas, Happy New Year, and make sure it's safe.
Mundine means business. Westpac.